So, what do you want to talk about?
You want to have a drink?
Sure thing. Do you want to have it standing here, or do you want to find a seat first?
Let's have it standing.
Alright. Now, on to the drinks. Do you want to have mead, wine, or just plain milk?
I think I'd like something more daring.
Oh, I see. Now, let's see what I have here. I procured these in Riften the last time I was there. First, we have the Cliff Racer. Firebrand wine, Cyrodiilic brandy, Flynn and Sujama. A drink for the daring. Next up, we have some Dragon's Breath mead. A drink worthy of someone as fiery as you are. Then, there's the Velvet La Chance, which is a mixture of blackberry, honey, spiced wine, and a touch of nightshade. Perfectly safe, in moderate amounts.
Velvet La Chance.
Nice choice. Perfectly safe, I assure you.
Cheers.
Likewise.
Any thoughts on what's been going on lately?
How does it feel to be the mighty hero of Skyrim, distinguished for such tasks as being a courier, and lastly, being a courier? What? It's true. Almost everything you've done revolves around that. Go to this place, kill some things, pick something up, and deliver it to someone.
Any other thoughts on current events?
This isn't necessarily a past journey, but I was thinking about this regardless. The Civil War. Waking up to this whole mess was truly something I did not expect. I expected a change in who was the High King, but I didn't know that they were more complicated. Cyrodiil being the seat of an empire, for one. And besides this whole civil contention for Skyrim's land, we have Altmer nationalists eyeing to conquer it as well.
So, has anything been on your mind lately?
I was just thinking, how would I describe you to someone who's never met you? Fearless? Clever? Dashing? No. I think it's your kindness that really sets you apart, actually. You always try to help people, and it's uncanny how you can always tell when someone needs your aid, too. I never did get how. So, what do you want to talk about now?
Do you think everyone is born good or evil?
Wow, looks like you're in a philosophical mood tonight. In terms of what I think, everyone is born as a blank slate. An infant, for example, doesn't know their right hand from their left. You can't hold them accountable for anything, because they can't grasp the concept of what is good and what is evil. However, when you get to a certain age, you start learning these things. That's when people can start erring towards the more good part of the spectrum, or quite the opposite. However, once you're on a certain end of this spectrum, it doesn't mean that you'll stay this way for the rest of your life. Some people rise as heroes and die as villains. Others, they work to overcome their evil with great effort.
I would like to ask you something else.
All right. So, what do you want to talk about now?
Have you ever wanted to explore distant lands like Akavir or Atmora?
I have, actually. But not before I get to explore the rest of Tamriel. Besides those distant lands, there's a lot else to explore, you know? The delicacies and culture of High Rock, the dense forests of Valenwood, the imperial city of Cyrodiil, or even Skyrim, by the Maker. I've spent most of my life cooped up in a dusty old tower. Almost everything is new nowadays.
I would like to ask you something else.
All right. So, what do you want to talk about now?
Have you ever considered setting up a shop once your adventuring days are over?
I have, actually. And if I wasn't an adventurer now, I would probably be running a shop or two. Maybe even a conglomerate, if the Divines would permit. Ever since I was a child back on the island, I'd particularly be interested in the merchants that would come to our castle every now and then. Of course, these were weird merchants, to say the least, with peculiar and eccentric collections. These vendors make even Belethor look weird. My father was kind of into those things, though. I mean, it wasn't anything particularly weird for someone who fancied himself as vampire royalty, and who also was a staunch Daedra worshipper. Point is, there was just something in how these men sold and marketed their products. Kinda made me interested in the whole shopkeeping thing. Weird shopkeeping things, but still.
I would like to ask you something else.
All right. So, what do you want to talk about now?
What do you think of Elisif?
I feel sad for her. She's been through a lot, I can tell. Whether it be the death of her husband Torrig, or having to govern the entire province of Skyrim in the midst of a civil war and a looming threat of a Thalmor invasion. However, I'm confident she'll get through this. She's strong, and hardship breeds endurance.
I would like to ask you something else.
All right. So, what do you want to talk about now?
Do you believe people can change to be intrinsically better and more understanding?
I do believe that we can. I've read a similar concept before. It was in the new type theory proposed by a Dwemer philosopher long ago. He said that if men and Mer alike cast aside the shackles of what has binded them to selfish squabbles and struggles to power, they could mentally evolve, in a sense, to be higher beings, new types. People who can more easily detect the thoughts and intentions of others, and are more admissible to understanding. I would like to remember the name of the book, or the author, but I'm afraid it's been lost to time.
I would like to ask you something else.
All right. So, what do you want to talk about now?
What do you think of our companions?
Oh? Which one?
Garen.
Back on the island, at least. Besides my mother, he was one of the only people on my father's court who cared for me. I would never forget the times we'd play and cast playful spells together. Or that time he cast invisibility to hide me from my mother as I was frolicking around the castle courtyard past my bedtime. For one who abandoned his house, family, and could have very well been seen as a deserter, he was family to me.
I would like to ask you something else.
All right. So, what do you want to talk about now?
Have you thought about your afterlife?
Yeah. It's not the most comforting thought, but it's a reality I'll have to face eventually. Seeing as how I'm a vampire, my soul will most probably end up in Cold Harbor. If I could, though, I would like to potentially alter that fate. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy my vampire powers, but I hate what it's done to my family, and who I ultimately have to submit to.
Thanks, Serana. That was a good talk.
It's nice, spending time like this, just having drinks together. Hey, I'm glad you're here with me.
Do you have a moment to talk?
Oh? What is it?
Do you have any funny stories to tell while you were back on the island?
Yes, I do. Don't tell anyone else, though. Sometime back when I was still mortal, my parents ordered an entire keg of ultimate golden pear wine. And yes, I know my parents were weird, but like any other Nord royalty, they did like their wine. Anyway, what I did next was probably the most stupid and one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. One afternoon, I snuck down into the cellar while everyone was asleep. And I thought, maybe I should have a quick swig of this. And the next thing I knew, I was laying flat on my belly with both my parents yelling at me. I supposedly finished the entire keg.
That was rather amusing.
Yes, it was. But getting hungover really isn't.
Do you need something? Nothing else then?